I'm Kayla, as was said. I'm a UX designer at Seek, and this has nothing to do with Seek. Yeah, you'll understand what I mean. It's called Insertables, so you can see why I would say that. I'm a crazy person who does my PhD one day a week at the University of Melbourne, and I do it on this thing called Insertables. Okay, show of hands. Who would get a medical device if a doctor told you to? Pacemaker. Most people. Sorry. This is going to be really annoying. Can I get you to click? Like, I have an app that's meant to do this, but, you know, technology never works. Maybe. Would you get this device that works really well inserted in your body? Yeah, I'm jumping. You don't need to see me. Okay. Oh, now it works. Oh, now I get to... no flashing. Okay. So, if a doctor told you to get a device implanted, would you? Yes, most of you. So, a lot of devices that are now inside the human body started off as luggable. This is the first pacemaker. It was brought to the patient. Obviously, a little bit of it was inserted. And with battery improvements, it became wearable. You can live a pretty much normal life with this device on your belt. And now it's fully insertable or implantable. Pretty routine surgery, implanted battery and all. Wheelchair, wheelable. Early prostheses are kind of luggable, really crudely attached to the body. And now, insertable or implantable. Research into brain-computer interfaces so that it connects to your actual nerves and you can control it as if it were your own leg. Insulin pump. First one bought luggable injections, wearable, maybe insertable. Google's working on glucose monitors. Well, they have a patent. Okay, that doesn't mean they're working on it, but they have a patent for contact lens insertable glucose monitors. Luggable, insertable. And that makes his life a lot easier, right? You can see the convenience. Luggable, ear horn. You don't see many of them, maybe in Fitzroy, but wearable and implantable, still with a wearable bit, cochlear implants. What do you reckon this is used for? It's a vessel of water, and if you put it over writing, it kind of enlarges the writing. This is what they theorize people used as glasses before optometry. Wearable, insertable. So, would you get a small device implanted if you would stop having to take a tablet every day, or 5 tablets, or show of hands? Yeah. So that's convenience. Women, we have lots of convenience. Wearable, swallowable, injectables, insertable, whatever you want really. Nothing, whatever. Menstrual aids. This is the part where I make all the men feel really awkward. It's my favourite part of the talk. Wearable or insertable, whatever you prefer, whatever you're more comfortable with, you get to choose. So, incontinence aids, diapers, or women now have an insertable counterpart. So what are insertables? Yeah, when I tell people what I do, my PhD, and I get this reaction. It's a device that goes inside the body, in, through, or underneath the skin, predominantly for non-medical purposes. Still, why not implantable? Well, I want to make the distinction because a piercing isn't really a wearable. It's definitely not an implant. That has a really medical connotation, and if we start to put sensors on these could be insertable devices. They can come out, but also they can stay in. I don't take mine out for my x-rays Please don't judge my teeth if there are any dentists in the room. But yeah, those 2 piercings are still in there. Actually 4, but you can't see the other 2. And me, cow, contrast. That's definitely not a wearable. That's definitely not an implantable though either. So that's really blurry because I took this photo in 2012 on a crappy camera when I first started thinking about this. So it's a Mikey reader, and I had my my Mikey in my glove, and I touched off, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. This is the future. But what I thought was, gloves with pockets are the future. Yeah, no. So I started kind of Googling and researching and realised that, people are actually going that extra step and putting stuff in their body. And it's actually not a super new concept. People have been theorising about this. The first thing I could find in the literature was Dr. Alan Weston in 1967, saying that the possibility of permanent emplacements or tagging devices in the body. And then, it's not a big jump to say, okay, fine, I wear this device every day, like we saw with the pacemaker. Why not just embed the device? Ex-BT researcher foretold in 2000 of a day where we'd not just wear chips around our neck, so for work access, but actually implant it in the skin. Microsoft researcher, from a purely rational point of view, this makes sense, rather than a tag that can be easily lost. An IBM researcher says, well, if you have something on you all the time, why not be able to wear it? And then a reasonable extension to that sentiment is, well, if you're wearing it at all times, why not just insert it? Me, 2015. And then Andy Clark in 2001 saying such discussion is no longer hypothetical. And it wasn't. Professor Kevin Warwick was the first person to insert a device into his body for non-medical purposes. He actually did it in 1998, not 2003. So that's almost 20 years. I know it's meant to be emerging tech. 20 years. And he says, I didn't have a medical need, and he feels like the device did things for him, not against him. And it did things like turn on his office lights, give him access to his office. And then a bunch of artists jumped on the bandwagon and kind of did things. This gentleman here is injecting himself and then registering himself to a pet database under his girlfriend's name, kind of a statement. Oh, that's the same slide. And you may know Stella, who has an ear on his hand. And he did have a microchip in the ear for a bit so the ear could hear. And then the tragedy of September 11 happened, and a doctor who saw that thought, oh, well, these fallen soldiers and first responders are writing their badge numbers on themselves because they know they're not going to make it out and they're trying to be identified easier. So what if they had chips in them? He then went on to found this Very Chip Foundation, which was FDA approved in the States, to store a single identifier that would match up with a medical database and give access to your medical records. So you come in unconscious, you're scanned, and they know who you are, that you're allergic to penicillin, who to call. And that did kind of well. A bunch of hospitals, like 1,000 hospitals in America, actually were set up to read this. But it also meant that these chips were available for other purposes. So the Mexico Attorney General's office chipped 150 staff for access to secure areas. Barcelona Baja Beach Club did a VIP program. So you could come in, you could just scan your hand here, they'd give you your favourite drink, charge you. But the problem with these chips is that they're like the chips in animals, where they have a biobond coating so that they don't move around. So what Amel did is he sourced chips without that coating so that they could be more easily removed and upgraded. And he did that in 2005. And so he founded this website and made them kind of available to the public. So everything I kind of talked about earlier was an insertable. Sorry. but not necessarily an insertable device. So these are some devices that people are working on. This is a contraceptive microchip that you could turn on and off. So instead of having to get one of those implants every 3 years, a woman could have this for most of her reproductive life, turn it off, have a baby, turn it back on, without having to have any minor surgical procedures, other than like birthing, which isn't minor, I don't think. Smart menstrual cup. This is a successfully kickstarted, so obviously there's some market there. Yeah, I'm not even going to go into that. Baby pod, music for your baby through your vagina. Again, that's a real product. I don't know who buys it, but it exists. Yeah, it's not all vaginas. Internet of Things rectal smart thermometer. Why does it have a cable? It should be Bluetooth. At least. And then this is the North Star implant, and this is more of an aesthetic implant to show that the battery could somewhat safely live within a human hand. There is one guy who has it in his chest, so it's like an arc reactor, which is kind of cool. So the majority of people don't do that stuff. The majority of people who are doing this have NFC and RFID microchips, magnets, and bespoke devices. And the places that they put them are with form following function. So you have a chip that provides access, so you get it in your hand or somewhere that's easy to put against a reader. Magnets vibrate when they come into contact with electromagnetic fields. So if you put them at your fingertips, you can feel electromagnetic fields and have a sixth sense. Or if you put them in the tragus of your ear, you can kind of make invisible headphones. They still haven't worked out the battery and kind of sound audio quality issues yet, but that one's kind of cool. Microchips. Have you ever forgotten your work or uni pass? I did this all the time. Forgotten your Myki or transit card. I've lost so many of them. And then you have to pay for the card and put more money on. Forgotten or lost your credit card. And that one's really stressful. My bag recently got stolen in Colombia, and then trying to connect to the Commonwealth Bank app to cancel my card before he used it was just not a nice situation. Locked your keys inside your car, and then had to get it out with like a coat hanger. I have a really old car. Got unlocked out of your house. Naked? No? Just me and Susan Meyer? Like, that sucks, right? You step outside, maybe not naked. The baby's inside, you've got something on the stove, the door blows shut behind you. What do? Call a locksmith, try and crawl in through the cat flap. It's a really, really stressful situation. And every time before we leave a room or your house, you do the 3-tap check. Phone, wallet, keys. Have I got it? Phone, wallet, keys. I need to leave this room. Have I got my phone? Have I got my wallet? Got my keys? Cool. So what these people do is they take a tiny pinch, and they never have to worry about a third of that. They can't forget their keys. So they're about the size of a grain of rice. They're inserted with a large gauge syringe, like you'd have for a body piercing. And there's no scar for most people. Sorry, did you get the photo? And they use them for access and authentication, storing and sharing small amounts of information, and 1 or 2 of my participants used it for temperature readings, body temperature. I don't know if I can make that play. Can you hit, please? So... Sorry, I've made it really hard. It's on this screen. So if you go to the left, it'll come back onto, yeah. So, scanned his hand, opened his door. Scan your hand, open your door. Never forget your keys, never get locked outside. And as one of our participants puts it, sorry, I appreciate this is not good for this room, but I'll just read it. I was super duper thankful that I went through a small pinch for the guarantee that I would always have my key with me. As long as I have my hand, which for the record I've never ever forgotten. It only takes one time of making a BS trip and having to deal with it all day or go all the way back home to realise a small pinch and this is solved. Yes, please give me the pinch. So again, they've taken luggable keys, wearable access passes, and made them insertable. Sorry, I have another video. Some people use it to share small amounts of data. So Android phone, scan the chip and it says, who do you want to add this contact to? People use it for info for themselves. I always forget what medicines I'm on, so I'll store it on here and scan my chip. Or to prove to people that they have it. So there's a lot of rickrolls going on, which I kind of love. One participant put his lab coordinates on it. So he said, it just made everything easy. I just had to scan my hand and I was on my way. No need to stop and interact with the interface. What are magnets used for? Well, they're a bit they're smaller, but they're a lot more invasive to put in because they're magnets. They can't go down like a syringe because it's metal. So you have to cut with a scalpel, make a pocket, shove it in, suture it up. But still, once healed, you can't actually see that it's in there. And yeah, so this one's not a video. But yeah, so you can pick up things. I don't know how useful that is. On a Mac, over here, next to the tab key, is the lid close receptor, and it's a magnet. So if you're typing and someone comes up behind you, they just kind of move their hand and turn off their screens. That was found by accident, but that's a use for it. A couple of people have done bespoke implementations, so they set it up to they had to have a wearable on top of it. But set it up to a proximity sensor so it would vibrate when they got near something, and they essentially walked around without hitting into things. So proof of concept for blind people. I really like this quote, but I haven't designed it well. This is about the magnets vibrating for music. So he says, he played Straight Outta Compton for me, and I was like, holy shit, Easy is inside my head, which is really cool. The lover's magnet configuration, you and your significant other can get them. And then when you hold hands, you click. I've only had one participant who has done that. All right, so other than this, why are people putting devices inside their bodies? For some people, they want a new body mod. A very small percentage. Most of them aren't actually into body mods. They don't have tattoos. They don't have piercings. They are into tech, like all of you. They want to be part of the next big thing. Some of them want to extend their functions and capabilities, so the sixth sense of magnets. And for others, they're just tired of wearables and it's convenient. I don't want to forget my keys. That's as much as it is for some people. So yeah, someone has to figure it out sooner or later. People who are like, well, let's do this for the future of humanity. Kind of transhumanist. Sorry, excuse me. And I'm not satisfied with the purely biological body. I want to basically have more functional stuff, and this is the first step. This is what's available now. And really extreme views by some participants. This is the next stage of human evolution. We shouldn't just be able to enhance the senses that we have naturally or when we lose them. Yeah. That's too big. So this isn't for everyone. You could have RFID glue on nails if you're not into getting stuff in your body. All right, myths. Sometimes people think that, oh, well, the government's going to track me from outer space. Probably with your cell phone that you charge every day. With this teeny tiny microchip, no. It's like having a lost cat. If you lose your cat, you can't look up and know where your cat is. Your cat has to be found, taken to a vet, scanned, looked up in the database, and then they'll find you. So it would be more like, oh, okay, I stuffed that up. That's okay. Can you play this one? It'd be more like this. Yes, that is the end. Whatever. Yeah, here. Yeah, it's just there. And that's what it would be like. Thank you, questions.